It is very important for the existence of the House of Beauvais to do things with meaning. It's not only to do things for aesthetical considerations. We have the mission to be really at the level of the huge patrimony that this house has since 200 years. If it's to add a new watch, it's not our challenge. It's not our breath every morning. If it's to add a new challenge of that step further, to bring that little smile to our collectors' faces, and before then that to all the team faces, this is the mission of the house. Do exceptional, do with meaning, do not hesitate.
Welcome or welcome back to Watch Advisor and YouTube world of Watches Are the Stars. Today with me is Keith, a former colleague of mine, journalist colleague, and he joined the team of Beauvais, and we are at Beauvais, the castle of Beauvais, standing above the village of Fleurier. We're discovering the brand Beauvais. And I have to admit, it's also a premiere for me. It might be a shame that I never came to Beauvais, because what I have seen so far today, and Keith is the perfect host, what I have seen today is amazing. Keith, what was your intention to, instead being a journalist, to join Beauvais?
Well, I've always been a fan of Beauvais.
Yeah.
I was a collector of Beauvais before I joined the house, and I've known Mr. Raffi for 20-some years. So when he approached me to help him tell the story of Beauvais, I was very pleased to do it. And I'm really pleased to have you here, especially since you haven't come to Beauvais. And I'm glad that you guys are getting a chance to discover this incredible house.
Follow us, you will see things you wouldn't expect. So if you probably jump into the video and you say, Beauvais, what's this? Keep on watching, and at the end of the video you will be as amazed as I'm already now, since I have already seen the place where they manufacture the watches in Tramelan. We are now at the castle, the headquarters. We will do an interview with Mr. Raffi later, and what I've seen so far is really wow.
Don't forget to subscribe and to hit the bell to get our latest notifications. So Keith, tell me a little bit about where everything starts when you are conceiving a watch. It's probably here.
Right, this is the technical office where everything starts, and it's different at Beauvais because all the ideas come from Mr. Raffi, who was a collector before he owned Beauvais. So he was a collector of vintage Beauvais and other timepieces before he started with Beauvais. He was in the pharmaceutical industry, actually. That's really a benefit to us because he doesn't look at things from a watchmaker's eye. He comes with an idea, not even knowing if it's possible. And then the technical office tries to find a way to make it possible. So because of that, we've gotten a lot of patents because they've had to find a way to do what Mr. Raffi wants. And a real good example is the Roussel 28 Prowess 1, which is the new watch that solves the world time problem, the daylight saving time problem.
The Prowess 1, the movement was ready in June 2022. It was really ready. And we had the ambition to present it in April 2023. At the last moment, of course, I was delighted to discover the movement, the finishings, the logics of the positioning of the complications, but came to my mind the 1% which was missing, which makes that this timepiece is absolutely exceptional, solving daylight saving time problems since centuries. It was the fact that we had a dial, a plain one, beautiful, in Aventurine, with the 24 time zones. And then I only said to my team, would you like a collector of ours? Would you like an expert to tell you that that percent was missing? So here is the idea, and I apologize, the movement is ready. We need to set, to tune, to engineer 25 rollers, and each one of them at 90 degrees is going to be printed with the 4 main times in the year: UTC, America summertime, Europe, America summertime, and Europe wintertime. And we need to tune a system where only pressing the crown, these 24 cylinders are going to turn together to be beautifully tuned, together with the rollers of the date and the month, together with the perpetual calendar, absolutely skeleton, and the cage of the tourbillon at noon, like the sun irradiating on the planet. Nobody was speaking. Silence. And the first one to say, Mr. Raffi is right. We're going to do it. But Mr. Raffi, would you accept we postpone? I said we will postpone as much as we need, but let's do this 1%. So it is true, I need collections sustainable all through the years. I need the eye to go very fluidly through the dial to read the information. I need absolute quality uniqueness in finishings, and like two hands to applaud, to master decorative arts, but also to master mechanics. And together they can applaud. One is not enough. The two of them are very good.
So it's, everything starts here. They're working on things that are 2 or 3 years in the future.
How long does it take from this moment a watch can be then realized and brought to the market? How long is the period? Is it 2 years, 3 years? Of course, it depends on the complexity, I know. Right. But in general, you have everything in-house. I'm looking for the crocodile farm.
The only things we don't make are the sapphire crystals, the straps, and like the synthetic jewels. So we're at more than 95%. That's one of the reasons why we don't say Swiss made. We say Swiss handcrafted, because Swiss made is 60%. And so people might assume that we're at 60%, which means 40% can come from anywhere else in the world. We're at 95%. But so the Recital 28, for example, was 5 years in the making. This timepiece, which is the Recital 12, which we are revamping and launching in June with a new version of the Recital 12, took 2 years to redo. So that gives you a good idea. If we're making an update to an existing collection, it might be a year or 2 years. If we're doing a brand new timepiece like the Recital 28, it might be 5 years or more. So the raw material comes in long bars, circular bars. So a lot of the circular parts are made in this workshop. So we're making wheels, we're making screws, we're making pinions, and all different things. And then we are recapturing as much of the metal and oil as we can to recycle it later. This was just redone. This workshop, it used to have 3 machines, now we've got 5, so that's good. So we're upping our production capabilities.
Are you using your entire capacity for internal purposes, or do you also help other brands?
No, we help other brands and other industries.
The setup you have here is for more pieces than you will ever probably manufacture.
Right,
It's really amazing. It's the first time I see Bovet, and I have to say, wow, chapeau, because I didn't expect anything like this. For a small brand like Bovet, you are kind of a Jaeger in a many mundos.
That's right, yeah, that's true. I mean, you and I have visited basically every manufacturer out there, and it's rare to see this much capability in one small manufacturer. So as I was telling you, the programming is probably the biggest part of all these workshops, because these machines have to be programmed, and then maybe they make 100 parts. Then they got to reprogram and make another 100 parts, or even 50 parts, or 30 parts. Depending on what's necessary. So this is the CNC machine area. So the CNC bay, that's the programming area where all the programming is done for all the machines.
Yeah, that's what we talked before. So lots of time people spend in programming, reprogramming, setting the machines for the next steps.
Yes.
What are the smallest lots you are doing? Sometimes only a few wheels?
It could be 5. I mean,
oh my goodness.
Because we do some runs that are 8 timepieces, 5 timepieces. For example, the Recital 28, we can only make 8 this year. So, I don't know if we make the whole 60 that they're planning to and then hold them, or if we do them 8 at a time, who knows. These are all the tools back here. So we're making the tools ourselves. And then we program in the machine.
So the entire tooling you are using is done also in-house?
Yes, right.
Respect.
So these are the kinds of pieces that are done here in the CNC. Complicated pieces like this and different things like that. So it really depends on the kind of part, how it's going to be used, what the quantity is, as to which one of these processes will do it. So electroerosion, as I understand it, is used primarily for shaped parts. Parts that can't be done on CNC, can't be done in profile
turning. They can be done, but
maybe it's better to do it this way.
It's more precise because you don't have to do so much finishing on it, because if you set it up correctly, the angles will be done correctly.
Pieces like this, it would be difficult to do, or maybe, as you said, require more work afterwards if they were done in another process. And a lot of bespoke, because 35% of our work is bespoke in one way or another. It might be as simple as like a Chinese character on top of the tourbillon, but this kind of stuff would be done here in electroerosion.
But bespoke means that the client can choose an existing model, but being individualized for the client.
Right. So these 3 machines are dedicated to dials. So we make all the dials ourselves. We don't do stone cutting or diamond setting or anything ourselves, but we do the base dials and we do lacquer, and we don't do enamel ourselves, and we don't do the miniature painting. We work with Andre Martinez. He's not exclusive to us, but we only use Andre Martinez and his group. So the base dial is made, and then the actual dial is painted upstairs. The guilloche might be done upstairs, and then we finish it upstairs and assemble it. Because we have some that are quite complicated to assemble. Like this is a 3 time zone timepiece, so there are lots of parts that go into this. So the base dial is made here, and then it's assembled upstairs. So this is the quality control station for here. In every workshop, there's somebody checking the quality, and then it's checked again in central quality control. So unlike other places where they might do batch control, like if you make 1,000, they check 100, here we're checking every piece.
Yeah.
Several times.
And is the operator himself in charge of checking the pieces?
No. So she's not an operator. All the pieces come to her,
Okay,
and she's checking them.
Okay.
All right, so this is a deburring area. So the materials put inside these things, these hoppers.
Clean surfaces.
You're right, so take off the burrs that are left over from production. And then this is one of my favorite machines, which is a machine that flattens the movement plates. You know, we do the stamping of them, and then they're ready for the work in the other machines. But this one is polishing and flattening at the same time.
So he's now cleaning.
There's an abrasive material on both sides of that, and one turns one way and one turns the other way. So it presses and then it also polishes. So you can see it turns and then it's flattening them too, and it's turning in 2 different directions.
Everything here seems to be really thought through, every little detail. There's nothing too much and nothing missing. Was it Mr. Raffi, or is there a kind of a genius, an in-house genius organizing everything?
Well, the guy that was in the technical office but was sitting behind the desk with the white jacket on, Jacques, he was the head of our dial manufacturer. Then when we brought the dial manufacturer in-house, he became the head of the whole manufacturer.
Okay.
So I think it's him and Mr. Raffi that have worked through the flow.
I can imagine that it's much easier to plan or have a huge scale of production, because you can standardize lots of processes as you work in small quantities, even lots of 5 or 7 pieces. It must be horrifying to really think every detail.
That's what really impresses me is.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you're making small lots like that, you got to make sure that everything's ready before it goes to the watchmaker.
Yeah. The more I see, the more I get impressed, because I have to be honest, I've never seen anything comparable before in that size.
Right.
I'm very much impressed, very much impressed.
So this is stamping, so we make our own tools. So these are the tools, and so Thierry is our longest working employee. He's been working in the stamping area for more than 35 years. So he makes all the tools. And so we make single strike stamping, which is just one time strike and the part's finished. And then we do progressive stamping, where it's like 4, 5, 6, 7 steps, and then the finished part is done. So this is all the raw material that goes into stamping. So it's typically the majority is brass, but then we also stamp some steel, stamp some titanium, but the majority of our movement parts are brass. These are all the different stamping machines, as I said, from half a ton all the way up to 80 ton. You know, this is where those really thick pieces of metal are stamped with the biggest machine. And I love the way that they do the tools with the numbers on the outside. So we have some tooling from the El Primero here, so we do some El Primero movements here. Movement parts.
Yeah. You're working for Omega, I see.
We do some different ones.
Wow.
We're not supposed to talk about it.
But it's interesting that you said you're manufacturing also parts for the chemical, you said
medical,
avionics,
and electronics. So like hearing aids, we do parts for hearing aids and things like that.
So once things are stamped, they go in that oven. It is mandatory, because otherwise, if in the process of manufacturing you would continue working on it, the pieces would just break.
Right.
Or go in the oven, some 300 degrees for
3 hours, he said.
3 hours, and material is restabilized.
Right.
And, so you have everything. I'm really amazed. Very, very, very impressive.
So this is the teeth cutting area. Because we like long power reserves, we like to cut our own teeth so they're more precise.
We have to mention for our audience that you can do this in a different way too.
Right, you could do it in another process where the teeth are already cut, which would be more efficient, but it's more precise when you cut the teeth yourself. So they're often done in batches of 5 or 7 or 8. but we cut the teeth ourselves.
It's quite old machinery,
Right.
kept alive, maintained, and it's the best way to do those teeth. And this is what I learned through all my years of experience, that the old machines do the best teeth.
That's right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Of course, you have different machinery that could do it easier and quicker,
Right.
but it won't be the same quality.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things that I really credit Mr. Raffi with, because he wants to do it the right way. He doesn't want to cut corners, he doesn't want to do it fast. When we go up to the finishing area, you'll see that the engravers, they don't have a time period where it needs to be finished. It's finished when it's finished. Because he doesn't want to give them pressure that it influences the way that they do their engraving, which is quite impressive. Our shortest power reserve is 5 days, and our longest power reserve is 22 days. So that's one of the reasons why we go to these lengths, so we can achieve those power reserves.
Yeah.
So this is the cold working area, where we're compressing the material and making it stronger and more precise.
He is, depending on the pieces he's working on, either cutting teeth in them, or he is bringing the end of the piece in a conic form, so it will better work in the stones where
Right.
it will then run. So just harden surfaces, optimizing the shape of the surface of these pieces, considering the part it will be combined with.
The synthetic
Yeah,
rubies.
the synthetic rubies, thank you. And so it's just optimizing everything that also with long-term use, there will be no harm on the surface.
No wear, right,
Yeah,
yeah. Quite intensive. I mean, he's doing piece by piece here.
Yes, and this is the difference in between long-lasting pieces that he has worked on, probably will last forever, and you can finish those pieces also by letting them pass through an automatic process
Right,
somewhere,
yeah.
but in a use of maybe 20, 30 years, and when you take it out, you will see that the surface is no longer good enough, and there will be friction and other problems.
Yeah. So this is the finishing department. So in here we do all the classic finishing that you see on here, the coupe de Genève, the perlage, mirror polishing, everything, by hand or with the use of machines.
Is there a certain surface treatment that Beauvais has been, I don't know, developing for his pieces, a certain Côte de Beauvais? Or
Well, we do fluorescein engraving. So our engraving, which is like a viney kind of based on ancient Greek columns, and that's very typical for the Fleurier Valley, is the fluorescein engraving. So that's one of the things we specialize in.
Fluorescent,
Fluorescein, yes.
fluorescent engraving, okay.
But then we also do special engraving. So for the Recital 28, Coraline here, she came up with a special new engraving called Rays of Light. So she does lots of different kinds of engraving. She's an artist herself, so she does the drawings. And if a client wants a special engraving like Moon and Stars or Compass Rose,
she'll
do it.
Yeah,
and it's all done by hand. You know, they make a mistake and you got to start over. You can't fix a mistake in engraving. But they're very calm, and that's one of the reasons why Mr. Raffi doesn't give them a time frame that they have to finish something in.
Yeah.
Typically, like that fully engraved case takes 100 hours and the movement takes 80 hours. But if it takes 85 hours, you know, nobody's yelling at him because it needs to. And what I found really interesting is when I joined 3 years ago, they had never seen the watches. They'd seen pictures, but the movements leave here. They go and they're cased at the factory, at the castle, excuse me. So they'd never seen the finished timepieces. So I brought a collection over to show them because they've never seen them. And the engraving people, they would go up and they'd go, "Oh, this is yours, and that's mine." You know, they could see the difference, the slight difference in the way that they engraved, which I thought was really cool, that they could see each other's kind of signature things. So, you know, they're handmade and they're really unique.
We don't.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't tell.
No. But they would know who did.
Right. Typically, we have 3 engravers here working full-time.
Looking around here, you really seem to have every kind of machinery to decorate any part of any movement. It's really amazing. And you are basically decorating everything, visible or not visible.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's how the way it should be done.
Yeah. People don't really understand that, though. When you tell a client, they're like, "Why would you decorate something?"
Because the other end of the scale of collectors wants it.
That's right.
So I'm really surprised to see you doing also your own hairsprings. So from scratch, you're really doing everything.
Right.
You are also pairing the hairsprings.
The regulating organ, that's
for
right.
the regulating organ,
Yeah.
so you're completely independent. You don't
Right.
need any deliveries from Etat or Melan or whoever.
Right. When Mr. Raffi bought this manufacturer in 2006, Mr. Raffi bought the house in 2001. So from 2001 to 2006, we used the Swiss supplier system. And so we were buying movements from this manufacturer. And in 2006, the owner wanted to retire and asked Mr. Raffi if he'd be interested in buying it. And so he bought it. And at that time, they were making tourbillon movements and making their own spirals. So we continued that. And now we do other movements besides just tourbillon movements. Now we do all manner of different movements here. In some timepieces, we still use automatic movements that we don't make, like in the Miss Audrey and the Recital 23. We use the Sellita automatic movement. But we're working on an automatic movement. We're working so that we can have 100% of the movements that we use that we make ourselves. But it's really important, as far as I understand, to match the spiral to the regulating organ, and that's what
this is essential.
Does, yeah.
He is defining the deviation of the timepiece before the watchmaker gets it.
Right.
Normally it's some 40 seconds or 20 seconds depending on how you do it. And he guarantees the watchmaker that the watch he gets on his table is accurate to some plus minus 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's
then
the
it's regulated from there.
Yes, then he starts from then, but he is responsible to bring that to the table.
That's right, yes, exactly.
And this is quite a hard job. If you depend on someone external, you might get the deliveries you wanted or you expected, but it might happen that.
So he's putting the spirals together now.
Yeah, before they go in the oven. In groups of 4 and 5. Four in that case, yeah. And once they come out, then it's a very delicate process. If you are too long in the oven, too short in the oven.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And so you're also delivering these to friends of the brand.
We do some spirals and regulating organs, not full movements. We used to supply full movements. At the beginning, MB&F, we were doing MB&F's movements at the very beginning. But then we came to a point where we had enough of our own volume that we couldn't supply full movements anymore.
What we see here, Keith, it's not operational right now. It's how to match hairsprings versus the balance later. So you have 60 classes. One by one, you just start to define the class of the hairspring that comes here. And then you have the exact matching balance wheel, and then you bring those two good parts together.
And this is a very important step too.
Yeah.
To guarantee precision and to guarantee good function. And if we bought from outside, we'd get that matched already.
You get what you ordered, but you can't be sure that this is what you expect.
Yeah, that's right.
Sometimes, and so it's better to do
it ourselves. That's right.
It's impressive.
So this is a very traditional way of printing. So these silicon tampons, they pick up the ink and transfer it to the dial. Sometimes it's 3 times transferred, sometimes it's 5 or 7. The plate is engraved with whatever's being printed. Then the ink is put on the plate, and then it's picked up and transferred to the part.
And looks very simple, but is very, very difficult.
Yes, you have to be exactly in the right position.
How much ink you put.
Yeah, that's right.
The amount of pressure you put on it. So she will apply some ink now.
Right. And she picks it up. So she's just checking now that it's going to be put in the right place.
She seems to be happy.
So she might print it 3 or 4 times and it goes into the oven to be baked so all the moisture is taken out of the paint.
Okay, now the real stuff is on the way. Picking up the color, printing. And I assume she will redo the process a couple of times now.
Right.
Until her experience tells her, okay, it's fine.
It looks like that's the writing on the side, the Swiss handcrafted or the...
Swiss handcrafted. Why do you apply the word Swiss handcrafted and not Swiss made?
Because Swiss made is 60%, has to be done in Switzerland of the value, I believe. But we're at more than 95%, so if we put 60%, our collectors might think, oh, 40% comes from somewhere else.
Is the expression Swiss handcrafted being protected? And
no, it's not protected, but I think we're the only ones that put it on the dials.
Okay. So, Keith, what are we seeing here?
So this is the Watchmaker Atelier, and unlike some other manufacturers where a watchmaker only does one portion of the movement and then goes to another one that specializes in another portion, here all the movements are made start to finish by one watchmaker.
So the watchmaker gets the kit?
Right, and then they
all the parts, and he is assembling the entire watch.
Right, the most experienced watchmakers are the 2 ladies in the back, and the lady that's closest to us is the head of the Watchmaker Atelier. So we have more women than men here in our manufacturer. We've got, so that's the piece, that's the Recital 28.
Just a question, before the watchmaker gets his kit, everything has been controlled by your department?
By each of the workshops and then by the central quality control. So they do the final check of everything and then they put it into the kits and the kits come to
and guarantee that what the watchmaker gets is 100%?
Right.
Right, okay.
Exactly.
Is there a similar process to the people who are doing engravings, that Raffi is not putting pressure on the watchmakers to finalize, or do they have certain times given a watch has to be finished in hours, days?
I think there's a range, especially for like the 1930s, there's a range where it should be done within that. But if it's not done, nobody's getting whipped, you know.
Okay.
And then the more complicated pieces, it takes the time it takes. So for example, the Recital 28 right now, it takes more than a month to do it because we just started. Hopefully that'll come down, but who knows.
Is it, by the way, a limited piece?
Yes, 60 movements.
60 movements.
3 different materials, titanium, rose gold, and platinum.
We will do only 60 movements because all the high complications of the Household Beauvais, you know that the number 60 is dividable. In astronomy, in physics, in geography, you divide 60, 360 degrees, 180, 60, 90. So it's also 60 seconds. It's related to the time, 60 minutes. So I decided a few years ago to limit the very high complexity to 60 movements only. This being said, the prowess one, we cannot handcraft more than 8 timepieces per year, meaning movements included. It is going to take a very long time because I have really, Alexander, hundreds of ideas for the rollers. Suppose one day daylight saving time is cancelled. Can you imagine what you can do with 3 other faces of each roller? I can display private messages to my children. I can display decorative arts, but I will keep it as it is because this is a witness of human history.
So this is final quality control. It's done by eyes, it's done by computer. So lots of different ways that we do the testing. And what's nice is that the different teams come together. Like she's in here from the watchmaking side asking them questions about it. So you'll see somebody that comes from stamping, like Terry will come up here and they'll look at something and say, oh, well, this needs to be
Are you
done.
happy with it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they decide if a piece goes to the market.
Right. If the piece goes to the watchmakers and then...
or to the market to be sold,
Exactly.
Essential and very important. The guys doing this are themselves watchmakers, trained...
I think they're more technicians than watchmakers.
What I discovered this morning was that you are a fully integrated manufacturer, 95%. You can't do more because, okay, sapphire crystals, straps, okay, this is how it is, you can't change. But everything else you're able to do, and what I discovered is that you are having a machinery, a park, you're doing your proper tools, you're doing your proper hairsprings, you're doing everything in-house. But for, as you just say, a luxury quantity, a small quantity of watches is about 1,000 watches per year. And what you are having could be there for many more watches. And I was so amazed that someone is putting so much energy, money, end of the day, to have everything in-house. I just have to say, chapeau. I'm not used to see all this because people then say, okay, yeah, but for our 1,000 pieces, we can keep some friends who will deliver us some of the main plates. Okay, I have a friend who will deliver me some gears. But I think it's not your philosophy. You want to be master of what you're doing.
Absolutely, and we need to control the process from the ideas I can have in the courtyard of the castle. Yes, we have the ambition in the next years, step by step, every year a little more to expand the quantity, but with the same philosophy for quality, uniqueness, and exclusivity. Then you need to prepare your teams. And the journey since 2006 up to now was by the same time to develop our own movements, to have the freedom between 2 plants to go to talk all together. You maximize the time. You make that all your artisans are aware of the timepiece since day one, all the steps included. And when you will expand, thanks also to all these exceptional human beings who are the pillars of the house, you will be even much more prepared. So it has a cost in energy, in investments, but freedom of thinking, freedom of acting is very important.
So with the town we drove through was Motier.
Yes.
And this is the Chateau de Motier.
Yes.
But the Chateau de Motier also overlooks Fleurier, which is down there. And that's where Beauvais was founded. This is the final watchmaking atelier, so the movements come from Tramelan. They're sent up here, then they're distributed to the watchmakers. We also do SAV here. So we do the service after sale here. We also do the production timepieces. So the movements get delivered, then they're cased, straps are put on, crystals are put on. They're put on a power reserve test, so we have to do the full power reserve test before they can leave the castle. So if something has 7 days or 10 days of power reserve, it has to stay on there for 10 days to make sure it actually has that much power reserve. And so when a long power reserve timepiece comes back for service, we got to do the same thing. So our turnaround time is not so quick because we have to do that test every time.
The pieces that come from Tramelan, to what extent are they already been regulated?
They've already been regulated and tested, but then they're tested again, regulated again, and then they're cased.
To be sure. What is your range in what you regulate the timepieces?
It's usually -6 +4. Customers often come up here, they take a look at what we're doing, and then we can give them a watchmaking class so they can try to screw some screws in. Yeah. They can do some engraving here too. They get a lot of fun out of this, that's for sure. This is a timepiece that's in the Amadeo system. So we have the system that allows you to wear it on either side. You can turn it into a pocket watch or a table clock without any tools. So this is the perpetual calendar that on one side is the perpetual calendar, on the other side is just hours and minutes. I think there's something like 50 parts that are part of the Amadeo system, so it's quite a complicated thing, but once it's put together, it's so super easy to use. See how she just took that off like that?
Yeah, sorry. And you can also wear it as a pocket watch?
Yeah, it comes with a chain. Everyone comes with a chain, yeah. And the women's timepieces come with a necklace, so they can wear them as a necklace.
Interesting approach.
Yeah. Well, we're the only one that has it. We got the patent in 2010. I think patents are good for 25 years here, so we've still got some usable life left on the patent. So that's also the Amadeo system. See, it opens up at the back so you can sit it as a table clock.
Talking worldwide, if someone buys a Bovet and lives in the States, there is an official...
No, they come back here.
All watches come back here?
From exactly.
Okay.
Right.
So the service is done?
Service is done here. Okay. And we recommend 5 years for service, and then the more complicated timepieces often go back to the original watchmaker that put them together. Like if Recital 28 came back for service, they would go back to the watchmaker that put it together. Here's an example of a heavily engraved piece. This is the Amadeo. The movement and the case are engraved.
The engraving on the case differs from one watch to the other, so you can't always reproduce exactly the same engraving.
No,
there's an individual note.
There's an individual sense to it. Yes,
of course.
Exactly.
Must be.
Right, because it can't be. It's not done by machine.
Yeah. But do you assemble all the watches here, or do you have some lower price lines?
No, they're all assembled here. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's only so much we can do, you know. You couldn't jump from 1,000 to 3,000 in the span of a couple of months, you know. If that's the goal, then you've got to build it up because it takes a certain amount of attention to do it.
So what could be a next idea, or what is one of them? You don't have to unveil all the secrets, but maybe you can tease a little bit, or what could be a next idea Bovet is going to realize as a wristwatch.
I have to tell you, when I did the 5 astronomical timepieces, I said since day one, I need to fulfill 2 hands. This is the prowess one, which means 4 others will come in the next years. The ideas are crystal clear in my mind.
Okay.
They will be also in the logics of the prowess one, adding something really useful to the collector. And this is so important to me, to build collections sustainable all through the years. Now for the future also, we're going to present timepieces which are not going to be revolutions regardless to the house of Bovet, but great evolutions. I don't believe in extremes. I always believe in the middle way, with wisdom. So in the sport lines and in the more casual lines, we're going to introduce beautiful timepieces, tuned, decorated, and thought as the prowess one, even though the mechanical feature is less with density. I agree, but it will be the same philosophy, the same blood, the same principles, the same tradition for good, for the exceptional, but in a more, let's say, simple way to display the time. And the house needs it.
And the industry needs people like you being creative, to have a visionary. There's a little bit the lack of creativity in this industry in the last years, I have to say, and I'm not the only one to say this. And when I see watches as the one you're wearing today, I have to say, wow, wow, wow. There is still a lot to do in theory if you want to do it. Absolutely. And if you have the means, and if you have the capacity, and if you give the people working space or everything they need to work. And I can imagine if I would work for you and you would come in and ask for new ideas, knowing that I have the entire 95% of integrity of a manufacturing behind me, I can say, okay, let's do it. Let's just think how to realize it. I have a boss that is supporting my ideas. He's also not pushing me, because I learned from Keith that you are never ever asking people to, if they are not able to do it in a certain time, they get the additional time, because they have to finish the work. And this is how you have to do it. You established a perfect playground for people who really want to stand out. Can I put it that way?
Absolutely, because you have 56 artisans at the facility. Imagine.
Yeah.
If you put the pressure to the watchmaker, assembling and tuning 744 components like the Prowess one, what about the 55 others who decorated the movement? He will scratch a bridge. But if you scratch a bridge, you need to disassemble and redo. So it is much more logical to give time to time. Time is the best luxury of our life. We know it. But at all stages, every day, for everybody. So do less, but do better. This is the philosophy. And in the next years, it's not a run after quantities. It is a run after the same shared spirit for values, tradition, innovation, by the way. It's not because you have 200 years of history that you're boring. It's not because you have 2 centuries of history you're not able to innovate. But do it with a very clever way, and listen to your collectors, listen to the experts, listen to your teams. It's all together. This is the philosophy of the house.
Pascal, thank you very much. That was really a pleasure to meet you, to be able to discover what you're doing. I want to apologize once again that I have not been more curious before, but I can promise you I will follow very closely what you're doing in the next future. I will keep an eye on you.
Thank you, Alexander.
Our audience will, and I think I have to say continue doing what you're doing, because this is what the industry needs. People that are passionate, visionaries, and charismatic leaders.
Thank you very much, Alexander, to your audience, to yourself.
Last question. If someone now is watching the video and says, oh my God, I have to see this. Are you accepting visits? Are you accepting people that call and say, I want to discover Bovet? Do you accept?
We absolutely accept it. We have more and more visits. And I always say to my collectors, please, the best way for you to understand, to feel the house of Bovet, your eyes traveling all through the castle and the facility. This is the best way to know this house. And this is why also this morning, I did not want to be with you at the facility. I will be tomorrow morning, as Keith knows. But I love the idea that my visitors can go all through the facility, share and live with the artisans, ask all the questions. And I'm sure you noticed between the team of the castle and the team of the facility, you have the impression that are all at the same place.
Yeah.
No, but they share the same philosophy for excellence, integrity, humanity is so important. And at that level of watchmaking, the human being is everything. Machinery comes with, and not the contrary.
So you know now, if you want to visit, you can.
Absolutely.
Once again, Pascal, thank you very much.
Alexander.
Continue
Thank
what you're doing, and yeah, I will have an eye on you now.
With great pleasure.
No, wait, positive, absolutely. I will come back because I have to follow up, yeah, absolutely.
In the next years, you will see additions. We will share about
We will look forward, yeah. I'm looking
step
forward.
by step.
I'm looking forward.
Very well. I thank you again.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming.
Keith, that was a really pleasure that you had me here in the castle. And it's historical ground we are on. As you told me, the family Bovet lived here for over 100 years.
It's really impressive, especially for an American, to come work in a castle. And every time I walk in and walk out, I just think of the Bovet family being based here, and now the house has its headquarters here and its final watchmaking atelier. So what was the most fascinating part for you for today?
You know, honestly speaking, it is the fact that you showed me that you're able to do 95% of everything a watch needs. There are a few things missing, so you could establish your moat here by having some crocodiles swimming in it, even also to protect the castle, and then to use the skin to make you...
There you go. That's the next step.
Yeah, and then you would be 100% in-house.
That's right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for showing us.
And thank you for watching.
He's the perfect guide. If you have any questions concerning Bovet, you contact... Yeah. That's your man. Thanks for watching the video. Use the comment section as always, and please let me know what you think about that brand. I have to say once again, I said in the beginning, I discovered the brand as you did in this video for the very first time. It might be a shame I was never coming closer to them. I don't know why. It happens in sometimes, and I was amazed, and I have to say in French, chapeau guys.
Merci beaucoup.
Bye. Bye-bye.